there's an alleyway that exists there that we'll be showing you at the end of the tour. So residents will now all take advantage of that courtyard entry. And Evan is kind of right at the moment of transitioning from the brick and timber building to the concrete daylight factory. And you can just take note of that kind of interesting transition of the two buildings coming together. You can see the layers of brick. There are even some remnants of the original facade. And then you can see that there. And then he's making his way into the hoist. We're going to be taking you up to see our model residence, which we completed. We worked with Rebecca Robertson from RR Interiors. That's Jose. He's going to take us up to the 4th floor. Hopefully none of you are scared of heights. All right. So as we make our way up there, we're actually in the courtyard right now. So you can see kind of the building, the brick and timber building there. We're working on painting that facade at the moment. And so now here you can see the raw elements of the concrete daylight factory. And we're making our way into the model residence. So as we enter here, we're currently now entering the model. This is the foyer. This unit is a 1733 square foot. It's actually a potential 3-bedroom, but we built it out as a 2 here. It's on this really prime corner here facing north and east. So take note of the windows. These are replicas of the original steel casements. We had to work with landmarks to get approval. I think the windows came out pretty well considering they're not steel because they don't perform well. So we went with aluminum. They're pretty beefy windows too to meet the OITC requirements in the area. And the windows are enormous. I don't know if you can pan back one more time, Evan, to that east-facing window. That window is 18'2" wide. So it's a really, really amazing size window. And then if you go over to the kitchen, so Alloy, we do a lot of the design in-house. We designed all the kitchens and baths with an Italian manufacturer called Rifra. You can see the design of the kitchen here. It's basically, we try to keep everything super minimal. Everything's kind of built in to the wall, matte lacquer cabinetry and rift oak island. The countertops, we actually designed a neat detail on the sink where the countertop and the sink are the same material. And there's a ledge there for your sink, for your soap and your sponge. And then ceiling heights are also pretty tall in the space. And you get the exposed beams and columns, which are board formed. It's a little hard to tell in the video, but they have this beautiful crafted nature to them. So we tried to preserve, as much of the textures of the original building. And then if you transition into the master suite, so this unit has an interesting closet, which is kind of a walkthrough. So Evan will walk through for you guys. We had container store fitted out to show what you could do with it. It actually walks all the way through to the other side here. And then we'll take a peek at the master bath, which has a stone mosaic on the floor. We have a large format porcelain tile on the wall. double shower heads, double vanities. And then if you take a look at the master bedroom, we worked with Robertson to put a tambour wall on the bed wall. That isn't typical for an apartment, but we wanted to show we're using that in the lobby. So that's going to be one of the wall coverings in the lobby, and we wanted to have people get a sneak peek to that as well. And, you know, this apartment's east facing, so it primarily gets morning light. We'll see when we get to the other side of the building, which faces primarily west, you'll see where the light's coming in. Maybe we'll take a quick look at the second bedroom, which was decorated as a kid's room. It's very cute. Rebecca Robertson did a really nice job with that. And then why don't we make our way into the hoist and head up to, we're going to head up to the addition on the brick and timber side. So we'll take a look at those penthouses that are currently under construction. So Evan's going to get back up on the hoist. You can see the elevators in progress on the left. So we'll go up to the 7th floor. And we'll take that hoist up again. You'll notice as we get a little bit higher up, this amazing west-facing view of Dumbo starts kind of opening up, where you get to see the skyline, the city, the bridge. So you start to see that now. It's a really dramatic view, great for sunsets. We're coming out on that floor right now on the Daylight Factory side. We're actually starting to open up these windows on the west facade, which were actually blocked up for decades, but they were original windows to the building. So it's we're kind of like unveiling this original building and kind of restoring it back to what they originally looked like, which is quite beautiful, and it's exciting to be working on such a beautiful historic project. So I'm going to, actually we'll walk out onto the 7th floor. So there's 2 penthouses on this level that are very unique. They have these huge arched openings. So you see the openings now created, but the arches have not been built out yet. There are giant sliding doors that get installed, and they get pocketed into the wall. So I'll show you a rendering in a minute after we go out to the terrace of what those apartments will look like when they're completed. They have very tall ceilings, so it's up to 12.5 feet tall, and these beautiful arched openings. Again, a really cool view here from the roof deck, looking out towards the river. You can see kind of the Brooklyn Bridge right through there. And then when Evan scrolls over, you can kind of see the rest of the construction. So the brick and timber building is lower than the concrete Daylight Factory. So we're on the very top floor of the brick and timber now, although there'll be a common roof deck right above where you can see here. And I'll share my screen in a moment to show you what that will look like. And then if you pan back to the left, you can see the construction on top of the concrete Daylight Factory, where we're adding those penthouses there. And again, the architecture kind of speaks each edition speaks to the different volumes below. So they're still in progress, of course, but maybe I will share those renderings with you right now. So this here is what those, penthouses that's looking out to that terrace that we just were walking out on. So they have these beautiful arched openings, which are about 10 feet tall. They're really tall. And this is showing you with the doors all the way pocketed into the wall. And again, new construction, but it's meant to relate to the round arch style building below. And then this is a view from the roof deck. So we were one floor below. The roof deck will have great views to the residents facing west, south, and east. And then I'm jump back to see where Evan is on site. So let's head back into the hoist maybe, and we can take everyone up to the penthouse level of the concrete daylight factory. So once again, you can see here the brick and timber penthouses in progress. And you can see kind of those very large openings starting to take shape. Those are some of the frames for the sliding doors starting to get laid out on site. So we're going back into the hoist, and we're now going to take you up to the very top floor. So that'll be the 10th floor penthouse level in the addition on top of the concrete daylight factory. So you can check out again the views as we go up the hoist. We're looking now down on the addition on top of the brick and timber building. Some really great views of historic Dumbo. Kind of cool how you see the bridge kind of going back into the city. And now we are on the penthouse, the top floor. We just installed the glazing a few weeks ago. So we still have scaffolding and everything up, but you can kind of get an idea of what the views are. Maybe Evan will walk. So this is an interesting moment here. The elevator will open directly up into this apartment, and there is I just saw a question here. Why is it called the Daylight Factory? It's called the Daylight Factory below because they use daylight, so they didn't have to use electricity. That's why the big openings, I think, just provided light so that workers could work longer hours without using electricity, so that those large windows allowed them to take advantage of the daylight. So here we are. Evan's looking out onto a really neat courtyard that exists within this apartment. So you'll enter off the elevator and you can step out into a courtyard space, which is open to above. And that'll have a stair, which leads you up to a roof deck, as well as a terrace, which is a little bit further out. We can check out the views facing east. So you kind of see upriver here towards the Williamsburg Bridge, and then further east over towards the Brooklyn Navy Yard and Vinegar Hill. Starting to get some nice sunset light happening. We'll see some of the other construction projects happening in Dumbo. And so these penthouses are very glassy. They're relating to the daylight factory below because the original daylight factory building, you know, was this very glassy building. This is kind of the modern addition to that. So this is actually where kind of the main master bedroom will be. And then we can head back towards the west side. And you're getting a good view of kind of our office building, which again, as I mentioned, was one of the first reinforced concrete buildings in the city. So Evan's now out on the terrace level, looking out towards the Manhattan Bridge. And then there we are at the west kind of prime corner. So if you want to give one more kind of view out that corner window, that would be great. We have this corner glass detail where two pieces of glazing basically meet together and then they get siliconed in the middle. So that's what you're seeing there. So there, and I will share some renderings showing you what the finished unit will look like. But really beautiful kind of views of the bridge. So here we are. That is what that corner we were just standing in. So that is our rendering. We actually do all the renderings in-house with our creative director, who, you know, obsesses over getting everything to be very accurate. And that was that courtyard space that we were standing in earlier. So it's kind of cool to have this indoor-outdoor space within the apartment. It feels like once that's landscaped, you have kind of trees in your living space. And then I'll go back to the video. Yeah, I don't know, Evan, do you want to go up one more floor and show the deck view? Seems like we have time. So we'll take you up to the roof. We're starting to get a nice sunset there. So here we are on the roof deck of the apartment below and the very top of the building. So you get great kind of views of the Manhattan skyline there. The Freedom Tower is looking really nice at the moment. And then, you know, the other character of Dumbo. Great, this is great. Thanks, Evan. All right, do you wanna do a quick 360 and then maybe we'll jump back in the hoist and take everyone down to the courtyard level? So great panorama views up here. All right, we'll head back in the hoist and head down to the courtyard. It's a beautiful sunset. All right, so we're heading back down into the courtyard. That's where our hoist currently is. And you'll notice the courtyard was once kind of the heart of the operations for Masri and Sons because they owned a lot of the adjacent buildings at the time. So we were really excited to make that accessible to all the residents rather than just, you know, having it a courtyard that you can look into. So bringing people in as a place where they enter was really important for us, and restoring the courtyard, but also making it this really green oasis. So right now we're trying to save the one tree that was back here, and I think it's doing pretty well actually. It'll look very different from this. We're working with Future Green. They're a landscape design firm who's going to totally transform the space from what it looks like now. So maybe we could do another Untapped Cities tour when it's complete. But as you look up, it's a beautiful space. You can see some of the round arches in the building, and then it's all, you know, open to the sky above. It'll just be these moments in the city are always, you know, so special, these little garden spots. And while we're still there, I'll bring up an image of what that courtyard will look like when it's completed. So let me share that image. So that courtyard will look like this when it's completed. It'll be, you know, an urban oasis. We're actually bringing the cobblestones from the street in to the courtyard as well. And I'm going to stop my share and go back to the video. Evan is going to direct us out. But as we're here still, you can see some of the other historic buildings that actually butt up against the courtyard. They have kind of shutters, even some of them. So it's a really kind of special historic place that, you know, sometimes reminds me more of some place in Europe. But it's nice to find these places that, you know, still exist in New York. And then currently we have a scaffolding here because we're working on the facade, but this original alley here will be open to above. So this is where people are going to enter and exit through the courtyard. And now we are walking out onto Plymouth Street, which is now the new entry to the building. And Plymouth Street, I don't know if everyone knows, but this is kind of one of those iconic streets of Dumbo which have these amazing views. This one here is a little bit less known than Washington Street. Hopefully it doesn't become popular, but this view here, the street kind of frames the Brooklyn Bridge just perfectly, and you kind of see the Manhattan Bridge shooting through. They're doing a ton of street work in the neighborhood, so the cobblestones are currently not there, but they're all going to be coming back. And yeah, this is like one of those, you know, movie shots, movie locations that often producers use. It's a really beautiful view down Plymouth Street. And it's just one block from the water in Brooklyn Bridge Park. So it's a really nice location. Do you want to just pan up to the building one more time, and then I think we can move on to questions if anybody has any. Yeah, so you can see the new windows going in on the facade, which is really exciting because previously the windows were replaced at some point down the line, probably in the 70s, to these very hideous looking windows. So it's nice to see the building kind of being restored to its original grandeur. All right. I can scroll through the comments here and see if there's any questions.
Sarah, I'm back as well, so I can,
okay, great.
I can help you with that as well. First of all, thank you very much for that was really cool. And you guys were right. The light up there is just really good. And that view of the bridge is amazing down Plymouth.
Yeah, don't tell anyone about it.
No, I know. We'll keep it. We'll keep it secret. Don't worry. Because yeah, if what happens there happens on Washington Street, you're gonna have a lot of people in that neighborhood. It always amazes me how many people gather on that corner. They lay in the street to get the shot.
Yeah.
Lorraine, Dumbo. So Dumbo stands for directly under the Manhattan Bridge overpass. Oh, David, you got it.
Down under. Yeah.
Down under, right. So down under. So basically you're sort of right under the Manhattan Bridge and wedged a little bit. You feel like you're between the bridges. It's a really interesting neighborhood. It was almost 100% industrial at the turn of the century into mid-century, which is why all of these spaces have been turning residential. And so actually my first question, I'm gonna throw it out there. So you are saying this is the last historic factory to residential conversion in the neighborhood?
In prime Dumbo.
Okay.
As far as we know.
You're the last. Okay. That's quite a distinction. And you know, honestly, quite a feat because I remember even when I moved to Brooklyn in 2001, so I'm dating myself a little bit. Dumbo was still heavily industrial, and then it changed very, very quickly. So it's kind of amazing to think that 19 years later, and there's Evan. Thank you, Evan. Evan, that was masterful. Thank you. To think that all of that has been done, that's amazing. But Lorraine, if you've never been to Dumbo, Dumbo is it's a really great New York neighborhood. It's very interesting because it feels like nowhere else in Brooklyn. You do have a lot of cobblestone streets remaining from the industrial time. A lot of the spaces are insanely large because of the buildings that are there. And the views are fantastic. I mean, you go down to the water and you can't not get a good view of something. And Dumbo has a beach, which is amazing. I was actually there last week. A friend and I were sitting on the beach in Dumbo. So it's this really kind of like fantasy neighborhood. That's not just
totally.
But
it's very small.
And small, very tiny. And then Vinegar Hill, which is on the other side of it, which I know you guys sort of panned out to. Also a really cool, more mishmashy though. There's a little more smaller residential buildings, old school buildings. Highly suggest Vinegar Hill House. Really great place. And really cool stuff. So you're getting really great compliments. Thanks, great coordination of video and dialogue. Maybe we need a Dumbo tour. Lorraine, I'm putting together a Dumbo tour. I'm actually putting together one for in-person and for insiders, so don't worry, it's coming. Probably in November, since our Archtober is going to take up a lot of my time, but it's coming. Anybody have any specific questions for the guys at Alloy while they are here? Oh, by the way, insiders, in case you missed it during the presentation, Klaus put photos up from when he was on the site last year when Insiders went last year to 2019. We had a tour. So take a look at those because the progress has been pretty cool that they've done there. Pete Tannen says, thanks for a great tour. Any specific questions? Actually, no, I have another one. I'm sorry. I'm the inquisitive one today. You said that you were taking cobblestones from the street. So you're literally farming the cobblestones from the street into the courtyard? Or
No. The DOT currently is working on the streets. So they have taken the cobblestones that were on the streets while they do the street reconstruction. They're putting all new services in.
Oh,
they're going to bring those back. We are in our new, courtyard. We are bringing that idea of the cobblestones through. So we're bringing in, a paver-like cobblestone, not an actual original cobblestone, but
like, wow,
kind of the concept of the cobblestone.
I'm glad I asked for
into the courtyard.
I'm glad
No, that you can't do in Dumbo. There are some people I think that have gotten cobblestones, and people are like up in arms about it.
Oh yeah, no, I know. That's why
it's a serious affair.
How did you work around that? When is the work due to be completed? Asks Joe Holmes.
Yeah, so we are anticipating completion end of Q1 next year, early Q2, or not completion, it's kind of the first closing. So usually a building will have, a chunk of floors that are completed, they close first, and then, the subsequent floors follow after. So we're still kind of figuring that whole schedule out yet, but it's not a huge building, it's 46 units. And our last project was 42, and it all kind of happens in a few months. So spring of 21.
So you said 46 units. So yeah, that's still a big undertaking. What were some of the biggest challenges in working with a landmark building or a landmark neighborhood?
Landmark building, and Evan, you can jump in here too, but we've done a few loft renovations and reconstructions before, and you always get surprises. Columns are different, things were just made differently back then, obviously. So, right. There are different imperfections and things, but that all kind of adds to the character of the building. And as you kind of peel the layers back, you uncover new things, and you're like, oh, okay, that on that floor, the beams are 16 inches versus 18 on this floor, or there are those sorts of surprises along the way. So it definitely keeps us on our toes.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add is it's the original use of the building wasn't a condo building. Right. It was a factory, and so we're converting it to a condo building, but we want to respect the historic use, and so there's challenges like historic loading docks and things that aren't typically found in a condo building that we have to respect and also take care of in terms of the architectural personality, but also take care of the pragmatic challenges of making it a real home for people as well. So it was an exciting challenge from the landmark's perspective.
Yeah, and in a new construction building, you're building your ideal floor plan, right, based on the building and the geometry. But here, you're working within an existing building, so the windows are where they are. The building is what it is, and you work around it. But usually, you end up with more space in the units, which is kind of nice. In new construction, typically things are a little bit more cookie cutter because you're taking every inch of that space, but in a loft building, you're dealing with the existing dimensions, and usually that adds additional square footage.
Yeah. Thank you. So Marcy Davis asks, I'm trying to imagine how the pocket doors work on those arched windows. Do you have any other rendering?
Any other rendering? That is the only rendering of that view, but actually I can pull up the a facade rendering, which you might be able to. So this is that view of the arched openings, and it's interesting. The frames are actually rectangular. When they close, you'll have a vertical seam that comes down from the frames, from the actual door frames. But you know, fabricating an arched sliding door is a bit more complicated. So the way that we've detailed it, and Evan can also probably speak more to this, being more ingrained in the finer details. But they're actually big rectangular doors. So I'll show you an image of the exterior where you can see what it'll look like when they're closed. So they'll just be kind of a seam down the middle, and then they pocket all the way in. And so they can kind of be in that very open condition and have that kind of interior exterior feel.
Cool. She got it. Rectangles make sense, says Marcy.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, no, the visual totally helped. Thank you. Any other questions for our alloy representatives who have done a really awesome job? This was great. This was like a nice.
Thank you so much.
I almost wanted to tell Evan, just stay on the roof and I'm going to go get a glass of wine and just like hold all the.
Watch that view.
Hold all the sunset down. Great tour. Many thanks. As Klaus, and Klaus has been there. Klaus wants to go back.
Yeah, thanks it's good to see people that were there last time around. And yeah, we should do this again when it's all done.
Definitely, we would love to. And as Klaus said, hopefully in person again too, which will be nice.
Yes, I hope so. Yeah. That would be great.
Klaus, Marcy says, buy the penthouse and invite us all there. You heard her, Klaus.
That's
all you. Go for it. All right. Well, if there are no further questions, I would like to again thank Evan and to thank Tara for doing this for us tonight. It was really a treat. Insiders, for next week, Tuesday on September 29th, we have a virtual talk, the UN Delegates Party Scene. And then Thursday, this is also an evening event on Thursday, we're doing a book talk on Williamsburg Transformed with author Jeffrey Cobb, who just published a book about Williamsburg, which is really good, by the way. And then I am going to start Thursday, October 1st, doing our Archtober talks, some of which you may have already gone through or experienced, but if you want to come back, please do. They are charged for the public, but free to you guys using the code INSIDERS. So Guastavino #1 will be the first talk. And Lorraine and I are going to do Guastavino #2 in November. So thank you all, everybody, for joining us. Have a really great night. Thank you, Tara. Thank you, Evan. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe and be well. Have a good night. Thanks, Tara.
Thank you.
Thanks, Evan.
Bye.